In this episode, we're going to look at something which should be simple, but sometimes with PowerAutomate, things are more complicated than you expect them to be. I've got a pretty simple scenario here. I've got a document library where I'm going to have my source documents, and I want to be able to convert that document to a PDF, and I want to pop the document into the PDF library, but I want to retain all the metadata. That's easy, you say. Under the covers, what we have is a content type. So there's a content type here called Demo PDF. And I've deliberately kept it very simple. We have a choice column and a manage metadata column, because these are the ones that can be a bit tricky. To make it a bit more interesting, both of these columns allow multiple values. So then in the PDF library, I've got the same content type. I've also got an intermediate library called PDF conversion where I'm going to drop the file. The reason for that is that when you go to create a PDF version of this document, if the document already exists, then there'll be an error. I get around that by creating it in an intermediate library and then moving the document into the final location, which allows you to overwrite it. So let's have a look at the flow that I want to run. I want to run the flow when an item is created or modified in my source library. I'm going to use the convert Word to PDF action. So this is a premium connector. There is a way of doing it with OneDrive without the premium connector, but for the purposes of the demo, I'll just use this. Then I'm going to go and create the file in the PDF conversion library using the body that was generated by the PDF converter. And now the core of the demonstration in this episode is how do I update these two columns? You think, oh, okay, it should be easy. Oh, I don't want to manually enter the information. And also, for some strange reason, PowerAutomate is treating both of these columns as the Manage Metadata column. It's ignoring the fact that this first one is a choice column. But that's just an aside. So you think, okay, well, I just want to choose a custom value, go and find the Manage Metadata column in the dynamic content, and then I could drag the column value across. Let's try that. So, oops, now we've put an apply to each in there. So obviously this is returning an array because it's a multi-valued column. Okay, well, that's fine. But what if I want to do the same thing here? I enter a custom value, and this time I'll choose my choice column. Oh, now I've got two apply to eaches. And that's really ugly. I don't want to do it that way. So let me just undo that. Let's just run the flow and see what data is generated and how I might be able to extract it to fill in these columns. So I'll do a test. Make a quick change to the metadata. And now my flow should run. The flow is completed. Let's just check our documents. So in the PDF library, I've got my document, but I've got no values, as you'd expect. So let's look at our flow run in a bit more detail. If I look at the outputs, I'm going to copy this into Visual Studio Code so that I can read it. Right, so this is the JSON that is being returned by the document. And I can see here that the choice column has a type, an ID, and a value. And the Manage Metadata column has 6 fields in it. So let's go back into edit mode. And I go to Update File Properties. How do I know what I've got to plug in here? Well, if I choose something and then click the switch to input entire array, now it gives me a clue. What it's expecting is an array of objects with just the value in it. And then the value for this Manage Metadata field is going to be finance, pipe symbol, and the GUID. So somehow I need to be able to construct that array and pass it in to this field. So let's have a look at how to do that. So what I'm going to do is use the select action. to go and get the data out of the document metadata. So I'll just add an action, looked for select. So what I need to do is tell it the object. So I want to get it from the column, and the only thing I want to output is value and whatever the value is. So I want the column value, and I'll rename this, and I'm going to repeat the same thing but for the choice column. Once again, it's value and the choice column value. Let's save that. And let's run the flow again and see what that gives us. So let's just change this choice column and just have choice 2 and 3. Save the document. Our flow runs again, and let's have a look at what gets returned by our select statement. So it's taken the object array and converted it into a new object array which just has the value in it. And then we get the same thing for the choice field. So now all I have to do is go into the update properties, and here I can just plug in the output from my select statements. And once again, for choice, I'll switch to input entire array, grab the choice output, and then I can save. So if we go back to our libraries, I'll look in the PDF library. We've got the document without any metadata. Let's go and edit our document again, and let's see what happens with our flow this time. So we can see it's running. It's now complete, so let's go look at our PDF library, refresh the page, and there we go. So we now have our metadata being populated into the document, and we didn't need to have loops to achieve that. So just to recap, the demo was taking a document from a library which has some multi-valued columns. One's a choice column, one's a manage metadata column, and then we're converting it to a PDF, and we want to populate that metadata. And to do that, we leverage the select statement to convert the original JSON to the JSON format that the update file properties action is expecting. If this was useful, please feel free to subscribe and like, and share with your colleagues that might get some value out of it. Thanks for watching.